and Joe know all there is to know, from masterpieces to deep fried tacos. And if the movie sucks, you might hear them say, there's no telling where the guys will take you. Get ready for a spoiler. Won't say it twice, cause we already warned you. Better watch out, it's gonna ruin the plot. Real spoilers. Real spoilers. Real spoilers.
Broadcasting from the lush but not lavish studios located in the basement of the O'Keefe Institute for Advanced Film Snarkitude, this is Real Spoilers, episode 638.
Nope. You're not supposed to screw up the number.
What are we?
683.
683. Well, I got all the numbers there, just not in the right order.
Yeah, it's okay.
Well, that's all that counts.
Yeah. Let them figure it out. It's a little...
It's a puzzle like the Riddler leaves behind.
Yeah,
We're
it's a little game I like to play with the listeners. I'll give you three numbers.
You tell me what episode number it is.
Yes.
Are we 863? I don't know.
Could
Maybe.
be. Yeah.
Soon.
I got to tell you, at this point, I don't know.
Yeah.
There's so many. It could be 863.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Like, we don't list the numbers on the feed for podcasts.
Anymore.
Tom says them every...
We used to.
Yeah, for a reason. Because when you look at the actual number and you're like, there's 683 of these things?
Yeah. It's not like a comic book. It doesn't tell one cohesive story.
Yeah.
You can jump in at any time. If you have any questions about running gags, let us know.
Right.
That's what the League of Show Sharers
We'll clue
is
you
for.
in.
Yeah. If you're like, why is there a chicken noise? Well, chime in over there.
To episode 7.
Yeah.
Joe pops up in the corner.
Right. It's like the
Check out
like,
Real Spoilers
what was
episode 3.
What's the little clip it?
Oh, Clippy.
Yeah.
The
Clippy, yeah.
So I guess let's go around the table and everyone.
What movie are we talking about?
Oh, Adam's Projected.
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And I guess let's go around the table and everyone can say where to find, or no, where are we at?
This is great.
This is my best. Introduce themselves.
There we go.
This is Joe.
This is Kevin.
And this is Blake.
Oh.
Talk about inside jokes.
Yes.
Daylight savings time is great, guys.
Yeah.
Losing an hour of sleep is perfect.
We probably have listeners at this point that are literally like, who's Blake?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Are people
Clippy.
like
Go to Clippy.
Yeah, go to Clippy. Blake pops up in the corner. Hi.
So before we get to all that, shameless plugs, don't forget we're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, TuneIn, iHeart. Wherever you find a podcast, you can find us. While you're there, be sure and follow us so you never miss an episode. Maybe leave us a review. That's always helpful. Another way you can help the show is by sharing an episode on your social media platform of choice. You can also, if you wish to communicate with us, join the League of Show Sharers, which is just our way of trying to get you to share episodes.
We don't hide it. We don't exactly hide it.
No, we're not.
It is in the title.
Yes. And you can do that at Facebook as well, facebook.com/Real Spoilers. And people who were kind enough to share an episode this week, it was Batman
I was
last
like,
week,
good luck.
So there's a bunch. Julianne Jordan, Ralph Tribble, Heather Sachs, Christopher Rex, Librarian Cynthia, Laura Connolly Quiddick, Gabriel Lugo, Chris Sanders, Chris Valls, Tom Dowdy, Ron Johnson, Jeff Mickle. Hope I'm saying that right.
Michael, I think.
Well, there's now A in it. It's Michel.
Yeah, that's Jeff Michael.
It's Michael? Okay.
Oh.
Chris Magic Man, Travis Tewitt, Jason Weesey, G.R. Coppell, Chris Williams, Ken Holtzhauser, David Rojas, Brady Cloven, Cinema Recall, Invasion of the Remake, Brian Stever, Linda Wright, Spoiler Piece Theater, The Manic Pixie Weirdo Podcast, Nguyen Lee, Geek to Me Radio, DC Tweets, RP Outside the Box, Collateral Cinema, Feel and Film, Ryan Terry from the Forced Crowd Podcast, Mike and Oscar, Binge Movies, Paul Kersey, Chris Wilson, Ronnie Castle, Matt Naglia, Minorities Report, and In Session Film. So thank you very much for spreading the word. We greatly appreciate it. And finally, don't forget we have a Patreon where if you share an episode, but you just don't feel like you're doing enough, well, we agree. And you can go to our Patreon, patreon.com/Real Spoilers, where for $5 a month you get all sorts of bonus content, and you help us out, and we appreciate it greatly.
Which one am I talking about?
The first one that you recorded will be out.
Oh yeah, so Matt F. Basler and I, we've talked about it. We've got the first one in the can for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre timelines. So this is 1, 2, 3, and 4. The original 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Okay.
Hopefully next week Matt might have some scheduling conflicts, but we're gonna do.
How busy could that dude be?
He's got something. I will say he does have something going on the one day that we were recording. He's got something going on.
Did you see he took our advice from
He
the
did.
Patreon?
It's so great.
Did you see what he did for his Patreon? So Matt F. Basler, and hey, we're mentioning you,
Yes,
so
on
you
the
can't
podcast.
complain anymore. We're talking, giving you a segment here. So we were on his podcast. Go listen to the Matt F. Basler podcast with real spoilers, the last one, and he wanted to figure out how he can start a Patreon, and we told him, well, you can get a whole bunch of people at $5, or you just do one big one at $10,000. So he now has a Patreon with 2 levels, $5 and one available at $10,000. I'm like, he actually took the advice that we gave him.
I'll take it.
Love it.
But that one should be out on Monday. The first one will be out. Then we'll do 4 subsequent ones about the other flicks. There is hopefully I've got a pretty cool guest lined up. That maybe maybe we'll release it on Patreon first, and then it'll go to the main feed after
early
that.
on Patreon.
But we'll see. Hopefully it goes through. I don't want to jinx it yet and announce who it is. So
Okay.
Leatherface.
It is It is Gunnar Hansen from the grave.
John Larroquette.
That would be fun. Wait, he's still alive, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Get to work.
I know. Yeah. He's from St. Louis, so
Oh,
I
well.
think, isn't he?
I don't think so.
Oh, maybe that show was based in St.
He
Louis.
had a TV show
That's what it was.
after Night Court that was set in St. Louis.
In a bus
depot. Yeah.
That was a
Did
good show.
they never filmed it here, though?
I don't think so.
No, that's right. You're right.
It was
They
funny
pull-
because they would
yeah.
mention the Daily Paper and they would call it the Post Dispatch.
Yeah, we're like,
Where-
that's not how you say it.
Where around here we say the Post Dispatch.
Right, it's all one word.
They were like the Post Dispatch. And
It
I was
is-
Like, I was like, no, the accent's in the wrong place.
Yeah, when you look at it, it is 2 words.
It is.
We just don't say it as 2 words.
We also, I mean, there's so many words around here we don't pronounce right.
True.
Gravois.
Gravoy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, younger men is the worst to me.
How are you supposed to say it?
Well, I think it's supposed to be said Youngerman. People that live there say Jungerman.
Oh,
Yeah.
they pronounce.
I
the
definitely say Jungerman.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's Youngerman in the whatever, if it's German or whatever. I think you're supposed to.
There's
anyway.
a bunch of streets up in North City
Yeah.
that are like French streets, but they have completely taken the French accent
Yes.
out of them. So it's just like it's like a Colt Brilliant. It's Colt Briand. Like
Yeah.
that's how you're supposed to say it.
Well, like Creve Coeur.
Creve Coeur. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's another one. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
the GPS always goes Crevcore.
This is a very localized
Yes.
segment on
Now,
Real Spoilers.
Coming up after the break, we'll discuss our favorite gooey butter cakes.
Wash them down with some
Frozen
toasted Rebs.
some frozen custard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some drastically overrated Ted Drews.
That's fair. It's still good.
It's
I-
good,
I
but
get
like
it.
people are like, "Oh my god!" I'm like, I go to Andy's or Fritz's.
Andy's
There's no
is pretty
different.
good.
Andy's
There's
and
no difference.
Fritz's are the way to go.
Yeah,
I mean, there's none of those close to me.
Oh,
There's a
so
Ted
you're-
Drews
yeah.
like
sure,
next
I get
behind
that.
my house.
And it's just fine. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
It's
I love it.
good.
Yeah. Okay, so there was a time in movies where they were making these like preteen, like early teenager sci-fi.
Yeah, the
flicks.
80s.
Well, they're the 80s.
It
and
is
the
very
name
much-
was Steven
it's-
Spielberg.
Yes,
This is a
like,
very 80s movie.
very much
like
like Flight
it's-
of the Navigator, The Explorers, things
Right.
like that.
Yeah,
And
This guy has directed several episodes of Stranger Things.
makes total
I
sense.
mean, it's
and now he like on the heels of Free Guy and this,
Yeah, he's the guy.
He gets Deadpool 3,
yeah.
which is just crazy
They've
to
got
me
a
because those movies
Ryan
do
Reynolds
not,
pulled a Tom Cruise.
He
He's like,
did
yeah,
put-
you're my director now.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
exactly
His
right.
name's Shawn Levy, and he's been
Did he do
around for
Pixels? Didn't he do Pixels?
No,
I don't think
don't
he did
think so,
Pixels,
because
but-
that movie sucked.
He's been around for a long time, so I was looking up his filmography, and you'll notice. I mean, he
He
started.
did
off,
a lot of Stranger Things, right?
Yeah, he has, but he started off doing a lot of TV. He did stuff for Disney Channel, original shows and movies and all
Yeah.
that. But in 2002, he did Big Fat Liar, which was the
Frankie
Muniz.
Muniz?
Yep. But then 2003, Just Married with Ashton Kutcher and Brittany Murphy.
That's
He-
not a bad little. That's a
I thought it was a
serviceable
fun,
like.
romantic
rom-com,
comedy.
yeah.
2003, Cheaper by the Dozen, the
No,
remake
right.
with Steve Martin. He did that Pink Panther movie in 2006. But he's done all 3 Night at the Museum movies.
Okay.
He did that movie Date Night with Steve Carell and Tina Fey, and then he did Real Steel, which I know
Oh,
is a
Real
big-
Steel
Real
is pretty
Steel.
great.
That's such a good movie.
That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. So like
And
this,
that's very much like a Spielberg-esque.
yeah.
yeah. So
movie.
this guy, and then he did some other television episodes. He did a movie called This Is Where I Leave You that had Mark Ruffalo in it also.
Oh.
But then 2021, Free Guy.
Yeah.
Now the Adam Project, and coming up Deadpool 3. So
That's crazy. And it's interesting because Deadpool, Like those were the Matrix guys.
One of them was, it was Chad. No, was it
Right?
Chad Stileski? I mean,
Maybe.
it's one of the stunt guys.
Yeah, and then obviously Deadpool 2. They just feel like a very different movie than what Shawn Levy has done so far. I mean, good for him, right? Like you busted your butt and now you're here.
I know what you mean, but then also it's like, look at Billy Wilder, or John Ford, or you know what I mean? Like,
No, sure.
do different style. If you're
Right.
a good director, to do different style of movies, like this guy clearly is able to make a competent film, more than competent film, and he's had some really good ones. He has a great working relationship with the star, who those movies live and die on Ryan Reynolds. Like,
And this one is the same boat.
Yeah, and he is those movies though. So I think that if the two work well together, and Ryan Reynolds, I feel, has a great grasp on what Deadpool needs to be. Like he's nailed that tone. He gets it. I think them working together and with his technical prowess and being able to make a good film and Ryan Reynolds keeping that thing on track. Plus now you've got Feige, right? So it's, you're not just depending on, the other company doing it, right? Like the Fox, you're not just talking about Fox doing it. You're pulling this into MCU and Feige. So you've got that other level of, is this going to work? Does this fit what we're looking for?
That's fair. But good for him, man.
Yeah.
Like that's, you're going to get a multi-billion-dollar, I assume. I'm just assuming that Deadpool 3 is going to make $1 billion. The other two did, right?
I think with it being part of the MCU, there's no doubt this will be bigger box office than
now they
any.
can get access to actual Marvel characters.
Right,
instead of-
right.
Yeah.
Like
not just the X-Men.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not just third-tier X-Men.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, don't talk bad about Colossus like that. But I get it.
Yeah.
But they used what they had. Like, they did a really good job in Deadpool 2 of working with what they had. I have to say, like, the second one probably isn't as good as the first one, but I still really enjoyed the second one.
I like that Cable stuff. Like
Yeah.
that Cable stuff is pretty great.
Like,
And I haven't
so-
watched it in forever, but I remember really liking it. Like,
they use the characters, and I mean they've got the kid from Hunt for the Wilder People
Yeah,
in there,
right.
who's great, and there's a lot to really like about this movie. So it's going to be interesting to see how these guys, this team changes the tone. And
it is pretty crazy though that he did Tom Cruise it. He was like, you're my
The
dude
Rock does
from
the
now
same
on.
thing.
Does he?
yeah,
Doesn't The Rock have like a stable of guys? Like Chris McQuarrie
maybe, but the
is
Rock,
like the Tom Cruise guy now.
right? But
right?
the Rock has the guy that's done the most Rock movies. Like, he's his go-to guy. It
Isn't
might
that-
be the Red Notice guy. I can't know.
I
if
think it
it's-
is the Red
but-
Notice guy.
So I think that, look at Ryan Reynolds and The Rock are always doing stuff together. See, they've all, it's so formulaic now. I don't mean in a bad way, but like they have moneyballed it to a science.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
To where
sure,
they're
They
sure,
got
like-
their system in place.
Yeah. You've got the big stars. They've all got their businesses and their tie-ins and their marketing, their social media videos, all this. They're all friends, right? Hugh
Sure,
Jackman,
yeah.
The Rock, they all comment on each other's stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it's Topher Grayson, that one movie, Synergy. Right? Like, they've nailed how to do this, and it works. Like, look at these movies. Look at how popular they are. You can't go on box office for Netflix, but look at Red Notice. Look at how popular this movie is. Like, what they're doing in this new landscape of film,
That is the most interesting part, though, right? Like, how we've said this a billion times is how does Netflix even figure out
What's worth spending $150 million?
Yeah,
on?
like how do they recoup that? I mean,
Yeah.
it can't
subscriptions.
you think that's it? You think it's just based on
Yeah.
That's all.
That's crazy.
Because the thing is that Netflix, we noticed this shift like 4 or 5 years ago, where Netflix started off not with the DVDs, but when they started streaming, it was all licensing, like all the other services that exist, or just like HBO does. It was that traditional model of, hey, let's license a bunch of content for 9 months or whatever, get all this stuff, and then 4 or 5 years ago they shifted and they said, well, we need original
It's
programming.
been 10.
Oh yeah.
They just celebrated the 10th anniversary of Lilyhammer, which is their first original series, which technically not really original because it was produced for, I think, Swedish television.
They did buy it.
And they bought it, and then after season 1 they started producing it.
Okay.
But that was
which kind of became their model, right? Like where they're like where a show ends and they're like, hey, let's buy the rights and do another season.
Originally I don't think it was the show had ended. I think it was like they made this for like Swedish or Norwegian television.
I got you.
And then they were like, oh, we'd like to show it. And so they paid for the rights. And then after the first season, then they took over the production of it and started producing more seasons for themselves. I think it still aired there as well.
Okay.
But they took over.
What do they do
It's
that?
similar with
Like Lucifer or Arrested Development?
Well, the one was that Lifetime show with the
You.
Yeah.
That was
that's true. And then they
giving
turned
it a
that,
second
turned
life.
that mother around.
Yeah.
Yeah,
By
they
the
just-
way, we have 5 seasons of this now.
Yeah, they licensed it, and then it was a way bigger hit than it ever was
Right.
on Lifetime.
So
I think because people looked at Lifetime as like, you're lame TV and there won't be anything cool or fun or edgy on there.
Sure.
And so nobody
gave it a chance.
Everybody just was dismissive of it, and then they found it on Netflix, not even realizing where
It
it
was
hit
a Lifetime original.
Karate Kid.
Oh, sure.
Same thing.
Yeah, YouTube. Yeah,
That was a
YouTube
YouTube
original.
So Netflix, the thing is that they're spending $200 million on a movie, but that movie gets to live there forever, and it's a lot cheaper to do that than to license 6 big movies, right? And
Yeah.
then those are only for 6-9 months. So
Yeah, I don't know what it costs to license a movie.
but what I'm just
Yeah.
totally just spitballing.
No,
here,
and I
but,
get that they own it forever, but my question is, how many people are going back and watching Extermination, or what was the name of that?
Annihilation.
the Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah, that
Extraction.
one.
Oh, Extraction.
How many people go back and watch that? Like, is it really worth owning?
But but look at how they're pumping them out now. Like it has to be.
That movie was good.
It was good.
Yeah,
it
that was a
I,
good
like,
action
I
flick.
like, go back and listen to the episode. I had
Yeah.
good things to say about that movie, but I'm like, but is it a movie that you sit down and you're like, I want to watch a movie, and you're like, Extraction?
That's a good point. That's good. I mean, yeah, does it have the repeat viewing? And then if there is a repeat viewing, how does that get tracked?
Right.
Like, how does Chris Hemsworth get paid on something
Well,
like it's the Black Widow thing, right? Where
he doesn't get paid that's not how they get paid. They get
Could you imagine? Could you imagine Chris Hemsworth? I have to believe at some point a contractor is going to say, "I get 5% on every view, or 1%
or
on
a dollar amount per millions
view.
of views.
Yeah, like let's say
I'm
it hits.
sure.
Oh, yeah, I guess that's a good point.
I'm sure
Like,
they do.
I
I'm
get
sure The
250
Rock
million
has
for
points
whatever.
on stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's a new landscape. But the point is, Netflix is generating a lot of original film and
Yeah,
television
big
shows,
time.
and they're betting big on them. But look, the subscribers keep going up. The prices go up, and people are paying it because of all this content.
They do it so slickly too, right? Like, because it's not a massive increase.
Yeah.
No.
It's the old like, I'm going to get in your face, and either you're going to back up or you're not going to back up, and you just keep backing up until you're up against the ledge.
Yeah.
You know, like, because the one I just got, I was like $2
It's a
or
dollar
something,
or
and
two.
I was like, it's not so bad. And then I look, I'm like, these sons of bitches
Yeah.
have raised this thing like $9 in the last
Yeah.
4 years.
But look at the amount of programming,
But that's
too,
true.
right?
Yeah.
And why? Because they're generating original film and television. See how it all comes around?
Sure,
like,
sure.
So you're paying more, but you're getting more, and you're getting bigger movies. The movies they're producing have the budgets of the biggest
Yeah.
Hollywood blockbusters.
Yeah,
And,
this one-
and the stars.
and the
That's
stars,
the key too, right? Like
Yeah.
we've said before, I guess our last episode, no, we talked about the Oscars, how people were tuning in to see the stars, right?
Right.
So if you're doing, because I just watched this Wind River, and it's Jeremy Renner and Elizabeth Olsen, you're like, all right, whatever, and not saying that they aren't big stars, but then you say our next one has Gal Gadot, The Rock, and Ryan Reynolds.
Right.
That's a different level of media and attention that you're going to get over.
Wind River wasn't a Netflix movie, though.
No.
Okay.
I'm just like, I just watched that,
Gotcha.
which is an amazing flick.
really
It's
good.
so good.
Yeah.
You're talking about A-listers, and those other actors are phenomenal actors. And I guess now with MCU, they've elevated.
Yeah,
When
but
River came
I still
out,
don't know that Jeremy Renner opens a movie if he's not
Hawkeye.
That's
right?
true, because look at the Bourne movie. That didn't.
Yeah, they
Ooh,
did.
but that wasn't a good movie.
I never saw it.
It's
right,
not
but
good.
if he was a name to open the movie, it wouldn't matter if it's good.
That's
right?
true.
'Cause
That's
it
fair.
would have
Look-
opened.
Look at Transformers 2, right? Terrible movie. Those movies make $1 billion.
Stupid
right?
movies.
So anyway, so these guys,
Jeremy Renner needs to become a Transformer.
that's it.
Yeah.
What would he transform into? Do you think?
A bow and arrow.
A normal human being?
If you listen to that podcast,
I have.
Oh my God, have
He's
you?
a weird dude.
Have you listened to the podcast?
Which one?
The Jeremy Renner podcast.
Oh no.
Oh
About
my
him,
God. About
not-
him.
Oh really?
Oh God. Okay. Well, this is important. So I'm sorry, Adam Project and Ryan Reynolds and Shawn Levy. There is a podcast out there all about Jeremy Renner and his app.
Yeah.
I know that Jeremy Renner had an app.
The Renner Files.
Well,
That's what
you
it's called.
don't know enough if you haven't listened to this podcast, because I'm
Oh.
telling you, when it goes into detail, it's like, what is it, 6 or 7 episodes?
Yeah.
it's the production quality and the investigative journalism of Serial, like a show like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But about the Jeremy
but about
Renner
this app, and you're making the same face I made, but like
It's good.
you'll listen to
Oh.
the first one and you will listen to nothing else until
Yeah.
you're at the end.
Oh man.
No, it's not just good. It's
Is
great.
Is it just him talking? Or
No,
is
it's
it
not
talking-
him.
It's about him.
Think Serial. It's
Yeah,
investigative
okay.
journalism about, but it's funny and interesting.
Yeah.
but
Alright.
it's that kind of a thing.
It's really good.
I'll have to
Yes.
give it a listen.
Yeah.
I'm so bad.
After you listen to all of our episodes and you're
Yes,
current,
correct.
Go to the Renner Files, or simultaneously if you have two different earbuds in. I guess if
Man,
we both
that'd
get
be
the-
impressive,
right?
Yeah.
But anyway, so check it out. So yeah, these guys work well together.
But this is, I got to tell you, I did not expect this to be as good as it was.
This movie was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I loved this movie.
This honestly, this might be the strongest Netflix movie I've seen.
It's hard to dispute that. I was thinking the same
I'm
thing when I was
even
halfway
saying
through it.
things like
Extraction.
well, no, Extraction was
You're
good.
talking about like Oscar movies,
I'm talking
like Beasts
even-
of No Nation type.
Yeah, I'm talking. Yeah, like what was the score?
Yeah, I was gonna say the Irishman.
The Irishman.
The Irishman.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was kind of a snooze.
It was very much a
Well,
snooze.
You know,
yeah.
and
Well, they got to
but-
take naps. They're like 90 years old
Yeah.
making that movie.
but this was just fun.
It was just-
and
yeah.
that kid.
That kid.
So like, I really want to know how they did this. Like, I almost feel like they would do the scenes once with
Ryan
with
Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds playing the kid, and then the kid would mimic his delivery.
Yeah.
because there were scenes where he sounded so much. The cadence. There was one moment in particular. My wife and I both commented on it when he's talking to his mom, and he just goes, "Oh dear God!"
Yeah.
and he. I mean, that is exactly
I think,
how Ryan.
is it the date where she's talking about the date?
It might be.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. But it's like there are moments in this movie where he talks so much in the cadence of
Yep.
Ryan Reynolds.
His delivery,
that-
everything.
That I'm just like, I mean, I actually looked it up to see if he was a real human being. I was like, did they
CG kid.
I'm like, did they CG this kid? And it's Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan
So-
Reynolds has figured out how to make his career. This is Ryan Reynolds as a child.
Right.
Yeah.
He's gone back in time.
He's gone
and
back in
gotten-
time.
This is actually a documentary. No, so the actor's name is Walker Scobell, and I see how you could think that, Tom, and that's an interesting thought that's how they did it, because I could see it.
Yeah.
But also Ryan Reynolds has posted some of these behind the scenes videos, and this kid Walker Scobell has memorized the entire opening of Deadpool, and Ryan Reynolds, they're on set and you hear people in the background like preparing scenes and stuff, and Ryan Reynolds has this phone in front of him just recording behind him the kid that's in like a backseat of the Starfighter or whatever that
Yeah.
scene, and the kid's just doing the opening scene of Deadpool verbatim
Yeah.
with the inflection in his voice like Ryan
He's
Reynolds.
a little young to have seen that.
I agree.
Uh,
Maybe the PG-13 cut a 2, but not
yeah.
1.
Yeah, but come on, kids these days.
I know.
So this kid is good. Like
He's really good.
Watch this. I think I shared it or on Twitter or something, but I'll try to find it again.
Well, maybe it is then. I mean, if he's just that much of a fan of the Deadpool movies that he's incorporated it
Yeah.
into how his
sure.
delivery.
Sure.
And I'm
Right,
sure
you know
he
what I mean?
worked. I mean, the kid's good, and I'm sure he worked really hard on getting it down perfectly. But you're right. One of the strongest things about this film is that it's believable, right? Like the premise of this film is that Ryan Reynolds has gone back in time and he's interacting with his younger self. But if the kid doesn't either look or sound or act like him,
Right.
you're not going to buy it. You're just like, okay, like you're telling me this, but I'm not feeling it. But this kid nails it to where you're
I
like,
totally bought it.
Yeah.
Like I was
Yep,
totally
yep.
like, yes, this is absolutely Ryan Reynolds as a child.
There's also something about those movies that I think people kind of tend to forget is the level of heart in them, and we've said that a
God.
lot. And man,
This movie-
this is like an exploding heart, and I don't mean that in a gross way. Like it is,
Although that's fun too.
yeah, you're right. But it's like the level of like the kid plays it in a.
Hey, I grew up in the 80s. We had Temple of the Doom.
That's-
So we had
Speaking of
children,
exploding
heart,
hearts.
and exploding
Yeah,
heart.
right.
All in one
all
movie.
in one movie. That's
Yeah.
a good point. There's like, so the premise is this: this kid's Adam's dad, played by Mark Ruffalo, has died. So you've got two versions of a character dealing with the grief of that, right? You've got
And at different stages of the grief
Yeah, big
by
time.
virtue of definition. Yeah.
You've got Ryan Reynolds, who is kind of like Scrooge a little bit when it comes to his dad and like the pain that caused to the kid, who's still like a raw nerve, right? Like so you've got it's so interesting to watch them both play the same
different stages
same
of grief.
trauma, two different stages of grief, and you feel it from
Interacting
both of
with
them.
each other.
Right.
One who has experience and understands the road that he's gone down. That's what I mean. The premise of this film is really smart.
Yeah.
And it's really entertaining to watch. I've said it before. I'm a sucker for time travel movies. Like, you say time travel.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's Project Atlas, which I know that,
God.
whatever. But
Real
they,
Spoils episode 12.
yeah. But that premise at least though gets me interested. I'm like, time travel.
Yeah.
Back to the Future was one of the formative films growing up,
Without question.
that made me fall in love with movies. It was
Yeah.
Jurassic Park, Back to the Future. So thank you, Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
We're kids of the '80s. We grew up
You
with.
should thank Robert Zemeckis as well.
Well, of course, Zemeckis, but you know what I mean. Like,
no, I get
those movies.
Nobody's going to think Bob Gale. St.
Yeah.
Louis's
Oh, that's
own
true.
Bob
Yes,
Gale.
St. Louis's own Bob
Thank you,
Gale.
Bob Gale. Thank you, Christopher Lloyd.
What
Thank
about the
you.
best boy?
Yeah.
Gaffer.
Okay, sorry. Let me go into IMDb
Leah
real
Thompson.
quick. Crispin Glover.
Crispin Glover. Well, maybe not
Crispin Glover Part 2.
Well,
Yeah.
nope, that's somebody else.
We know him.
Jeffrey Weissman.
Yeah, we know him. So the point is that I grew up with movies and like time travel hooked me, and so the premise that there's time travel going on, great. But we've never seen time travel like this, because what's one of the number one rules of time travel? Don't interact with other versions of yourself.
If Time Cop has taught me anything, don't interact with or touch another version of yourself.
But every
because-
movie, right? Like
Right.
every time travel movie.
Yeah.
You know? What you don't get is the characters interacting with themselves, because it always creates a paradox. They implode, whatever. You can't exist in two places, blah, blah.
Looper.
Yeah, that's true.
That's a good. But isn't what is the he goes back in? Is
You're
that
right.
what the deal is?
That
He goes-
plays with the time because they are both in the same. So that's
But they
a little-
also say don't try to think about it because it'll break your brain.
Yes, exactly. So this movie is really smart in the way that they've actually given us a different take on that whole thing, where they're just like, no, it doesn't work like that. I've never seen this rule in time travel. They say that the kid's asking like, well, don't you remember all this now? And me, you coming back to talk to me and all that. And he's like, nope. Until you go back to your own timeline, you don't. None of the changes take effect.
Right.
So he's like, once I go back to the future, it will all sync up and I'll remember the past
And
memories.
I think you will see many time travel movies stealing that concept.
Oh
moving
yeah,
forward.
it makes life a million times
Yeah.
easier trying to explain why I don't remember. Like the
It's
kid says,
so
he's like, "Don't you
simple.
remember this
Yeah.
point?" And he was like, and then
it
he
hasn't
explains
caught
it.
up yet.
Hasn't
It's
caught up
so
yet.
simple,
Yeah.
and no one's ever done it. Okay, write me in. I'm sure there's some movie from art house from 1970 where they did. But for the most part, when we're talking
Actually, La Chateau
Yeah,
Valjean,
exactly.
a 13-minute film done entirely in cryptograph.
But I think they use it as a crutch where they're like, well, how do we get them to interact with blah blah blah? So they just say don't interact.
Right.
This movie, all they had to say was, yeah, it doesn't sync up yet, and they can interact. So that premise is good. But what makes this movie really special, it's not just cool because of the sci-fi and the action and the special effects and all that stuff. It's that you get all that stuff, but then also the heart that Joe's talking
God.
about. You're talking about dealing with the loss of a father, a loss.
I actually thought the special effects were pretty bad.
oh,
I didn't
I
think
thought they were good.
like
I thought
the ships
they-
looked a little wonky.
It looked very cartoony to me.
I could see that.
Like I thought it looked
when you get to that last scene as well.
in
it
that
is a
opening
little-
scene, I was like, I honestly thought they were going to pull back and tell us he was actually playing a video game.
Yeah.
because it looked
Oh,
very
okay.
video. It looked very Last Starfighter.
There
to
were a
me.
couple parts that I thought were questionable, but there were other parts that I was really impressed. Like when the plane was going through the cavern, like when they're
That part was good.
Yeah, I was looking at that and I'm going like, oh my god, that looks
that
great.
stuff where they were in space at the beginning,
Yeah.
I thought looked really bad.
Yeah, so there were moments, but then there were other moments where I thought like, man, this has the production quality of a big movie.
Well, and I've seen big movies that have bad.
Right,
Oh,
true.
yeah.
Exactly.
Big time.
So I thought that stuff was good, but aside from all that stuff that makes the movie cool, you have this heart at the story, and you're dealing with a kid. Obviously it's sad for anyone who's lost someone, but for a kid losing their parent, there's something that really tugs at your heartstrings about a child suffering that loss.
Yeah.
And now you have the older version who's trying to reconcile with all that, knowing all the years and the road that he went down on and everything, and then getting a chance to talk to his past self and help him through it. I tweeted out, I was watching the movie, but I got on Twitter, I paused it for a second, not even 15 minutes in, and when those two interact with one another
Yeah.
and start talking about the dad, and they figure out who the kid figures out who he is and stuff, like my eyes started watering.
It wasn't for me. It wasn't until the scene with Ryan Reynolds and Jennifer Garner in the bar.
Yeah, that
And
one too.
that was the one where I was like, oh god, that it was. Yeah, that was the scene where I was like, okay, this one has figured out.
What about at the end with Mark Ruffalo?
Totally.
Oh my god!
Totally.
Like this movie, I did not expect to turn on a Ryan Reynolds Netflix sci-fi movie and be like, I'm gonna cry 3 or 4 times. You know what I mean? It's just like this movie, and this movie. The only flack I'm hearing from anyone is they say, "Oh, it's saccharine sweet." Oh, like some people don't like the, quote unquote hokiness or the sweet. But like to me, that's what makes this movie.
But
great.
as a kid, as an '80s kid, that's what those movies were.
Yeah.
Right. Like I think of there was one, but that's what it is, right?
I think you've got a new generation that didn't grow up with it, and so they're not expecting to be moved in that way in this type of movie, like sci-fi action. They're not looking for the heart.
There are even. I know I'm going to get for this. Even in Monster Squad, right? Like there's a level, but just look. Go ahead. The mom and dad in that movie are getting divorced. Like they're
never
fighting.
thought I would long for Wrestling Corner.
But like the Monster Squad does the same thing where the mom and dad are getting a divorce. The kid is kind of like
they all had that subplot element of like there's of something emotional turmoil that then gets reconciled at the end.
Exactly. I Stand By Me, all of that stuff. Not sci-fi, but
Oh God, we haven't even talked about Zoe Saldana and him losing his wife twice in this movie. So, I mean, there are so many things at play. You have the kid with the loss of his father, and then talking to his future self. You have Ryan Reynolds still suffering that loss. You have Ryan Reynolds' wife Zoe Saldana, who's gone missing now for several years, and we find out that she went back further in the past, and then he goes to 2022. She was in 2018. She waited 4 years for him, and then they finally see each other,
and she sacrifices herself.
And then later on, she sacrifices herself, but through the rules of this film, it doesn't matter because if he wins, if he fixes the past, none of that future happens.
You're right, because this is that weird time travel thing. Yeah. A younger version of Zoe Saldana is not dying, right? Because they play with that at the end of this movie where Catherine Keener, right? Who is
that's the bad guy.
Has a gun.
Speaking of bad special effects,
that was bad.
The flashback stuff, the
de-aging on her was really
it was rough.
Real bad.
Really rough.
I would say that's the weakest element in the film, and it's not enough to go like this is terrible or anything, but like it stands out.
I almost think people should stop. Like I don't know what patent Disney has on that or what they've. Nobody has ever done it.
Speaking of the Irishman, it's like it's joke. It's like Netflix just like this is the de-aging software everyone must use, and we're not paying for updates.
I was saying we're no patches. We're not paying for patches.
It's weird though because some of those movies that we've noticed the de-aging doesn't work really well are done by the same people that do the good ones. So you got to think it's something to do with the lighting or the director's choices. Like some of them, the good ones and the bad ones, are done by the same like special effects studio or whatever,
right?
Which is weird. So it's like, how could that be? Because I think who did The Irishman was the same as something else. I'd have to look it up, but like, there's something there to where it's like, well, you can't just blame it on the technology.
I would say they have to. Like, maybe it's better if they're alive. But Catherine Keener's alive.
Jeff Bridges' Creepy Tron, whatever, was the same studio and technology as.
But that was the first one.
But that was like one of the first.
It was earlier, but there was it didn't take too long for it to get better, and it's like, what's the same?
Yeah, but then you get the Michael Douglas one from Ant-Man.
That's amazing.
And you get the Robert Downey Jr. one from Iron Man 3.
That was good. I still think
real good.
I still think the RDJ one's a little uncanny, but the Michael Douglas one is phenomenal, right? And some of the Star Wars stuff has been good.
Tarkin and Leia, So like, as soon as we get into like him getting beaten up at school and then the sci-fi, and I was like, they know Shawn Levy, I assume, is a kid of the '80s. Like this is. You could put this up there with those, like I said, the Explorers, which if you haven't seen is amazing, and the Flight of the Navigator, like stuff like that. It is right up there with those movies. So like we said, we're introduced to Adam, and he's
which one?
Young Adam. Okay. We already know that
so
like
Ryan Reynolds
old Adam is
comes back from like let's say 2050 something.
Yeah.
He travels back to 2022 current time.
Right. Yeah. And then now we're introduced to Jennifer Garner and the young Adam, and he's getting picked on and beat up at school, and
he's got a big mouth. He's Ryan Reynolds. He's Ryan Reynolds now as a kid. Yeah.
Which I do.
It's funny. I did not know the premise of this movie. I knew nothing about it. Like I was just, you were like, this is the movie, okay?
Yeah.
And so, like that, that kid again, like 3 sentences in, and I'm like, that's Ryan Reynolds.
That's awesome, man.
Like, there was no
sure.
reveal for me at all, and I don't mean that as a complaint.
No.
It's like he was that good that I was instantly like, well, that's Ryan Reynolds as a kid.
It is funny to see the Ryan Reynolds snark. Like, okay, Ryan Reynolds is what, 6'2", about 230, 240 pounds. So, like, he can get away with the snark,
You think
right?
he's that heavy?
I'm just thinking muscle weighs more than fat, so I'm just guessing.
I bet he's not 230, but
You don't think so?
I don't think so. I bet he's about 200.
No.
Yeah, he's lean. He's got muscle, but he's lean.
All right.
He's a lean dude.
You
know, good cut suit. Like he's a slim dude.
All right.
But anyway,
But yeah, so that works for Ryan Reynolds because he could stand up for himself.
Back it up.
Then you've got
Oh,
a smaller
we're
version
ripped or whatever.
He's like, don't touch it.
Everything that's happening right now, and you're concerned that you're wondering if you're going to get laid or not.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah.
I mean, talk about the writing, because we've talked about all the mushy stuff that we really liked, all the heart of this movie, and then think about how funny it is that they stop and take time for this kid to actually ask questions and make comments about things a kid would be thinking about.
Sure.
We're that muscular. Do we get laid? Like, it's hilarious that Ryan Reynolds is sitting here. He was shot in escaping from his time and coming back and everything. He's trying to get patched up, and this kid is seeing him with his shirt off, like a tank top, and
he's
looking at his muscles.
It's Ryan Reynolds. Like, he's ripped to shreds. So they interact, and Ryan Reynolds is closing the refrigerator a certain way, or the dog is responding.
Yeah, the kid's picking up on, how do you know how to do all these things that I do?
And then he was like, "Wait a minute." But what I'm saying is, like, that snark coming out of a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old. Yeah, you're gonna get your ass kicked, and you're not gonna be able to defend yourself, which I thought was fun. Like, it's just a different twist on that. Also, it pisses me off because now we know what a good Hal Jordan would have looked like from this movie, and you're like, come on.
Oh,
like,
I didn't even think about that, but you're right. As a pilot,
they had it.
Yeah,
like,
that's it.
So it's like, damn it, that movie sucks so bad. So now there is no really like race against the clock. Like, sometimes in these movies, like, you have to get to X, Y, and Z before this, or I'm getting shot back to.
It's a good question. In time travel, it's kind of hard to do race against the clock because you can always manipulate time. But their race against the clock is that Catherine Keener's character, who's built this empire by actually going back in the past, she biffs it. I mean, there is a lot of influence, because that is like the time travel movie. She has gone back in past and giving her younger self the money and the know-how and the tools to take this technology that Mark Ruffalo, the father, is working on. He's researching wormhole technologies and how to stabilize them, and using it for time travel to then amass a fortune and rule the world. And
I gotta tell you, I thought we were really gonna biff it, and she was gonna. Spoilers for the end of this movie. She was gonna be the one that killed Mark Ruffalo.
Okay,
that's
right.
That's where I thought we were going.
I did too, because I'm like, well, how'd the dad die? Oh, she kills him, and
right.
I thought the same
because
thing.
they say that, like, she couldn't get her hands on the technology while Mark Ruffalo was still alive.
Yeah,
and once they take him out of the picture, then she has access.
I think
to
that's
everything.
the same place. I don't know if, Tom, you thought that the reason the dad died was because of her. That was
I did think that.
Yeah.
Two McFlys with the same gun.
But back to the race against the clock. So the race against the clock is that Catherine Keener from the future is going back in time to stop Ryan Reynolds from trying to fix this all. And so she's got the technology to where she can follow them. So it's not necessarily like a time ticking down, but she's actively in present, in their present time trying to get him.
Correct.
So they're always at every move. These people in their ships are popping in, and all these soldiers are attacking them and everything. So you've got that constant threat.
Yeah, so we get to a pretty badass fight scene where
I thought the action scenes were really good. So like that's
they
part
pulled
of
back. They let you see everybody move, which is a thing I've bitched about forever. And like the Batman and this both let. If it's a stunt guy, like, they did a really good job of making it
editing in Ryan Reynolds.
Correct.
I'll tell you what, I was really impressed by that element. I did not expect this movie. I thought it's going to be entertaining. I'm hearing good things. But when we got to the action sequences, the first ones, like outside the house when the soldiers are attacking, and he's got this thing that looks like a lightsaber. The kid's like, it's a lightsaber. It's not a lightsaber.
But it is funny that they do the lightsaber joke in two movies back to back.
Yeah,
with the same director, same actor.
Right. Yeah, they like Star Wars. And it sells. People love Star Wars. But that first action sequence when he's fighting off all the soldiers and doing the lightsaber moves and stuff, I'm like, that was really cool looking.
That was a cool weapon.
And it makes me excited for Deadpool 3 because
that's
Deadpool
true.
movies, the action. I mean, like you said, you had the Matrix stunt guys involved, at least
and
one
John
of them.
Wick, right?
And then But I think that's one did John Wick and one did Deadpool. That's where they split, right? So both those movies had great action sequences because of those guys.
No, wait a minute. That Deadpool guy, the Deadpool guy was somebody else.
Well, one of them is one of the Matrix
Tim
guys,
Miller.
for sure.
Tim Miller directed the first Deadpool.
And who did the second one?
Man,
Is that
that is David Leitch.
then that's got to be one of the...
That's one of the guys. I forgot that.
Chad Stileski was Keanu Reeves' stunt double on The Matrix.
Oh, okay.
And then
Okay.
remember, they brought him in to play Carrie-Anne Moss's husband, Chad, in
Yes,
the new
that's
Matrix.
right. That's right.
And David Leitch then was the stunt coordinator on The Matrix.
Okay.
And so they split, and then Chad did the John Wick movies,
Yeah.
and David Leitch did Deadpool 2.
I mean, we'll see which is more successful.
Yeah. So anyway, but when you're thinking about Deadpool 3, the action's really important.
Very much so.
Obviously. And so when you say, Shawn Levy did Free Guy, which we all really enjoyed, and then he's doing this.
It's another movie with a lot of heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you do this movie and you see the great action. And at first people were like, I don't know if he can do it. But after watching those two movies, I'm like, yeah.
And then to your point, you've got Kevin Feige, who's
Yeah.
not going to let that be
Yeah.
anything less than what it needs to be.
He's going to control the story and how everything interacts with the cinematic universe. And then he's going to say, Sean, do this
Right.
and make it work. And he's a good director. He can make it work.
Yeah,
Right?
and he'll be like, yes, sir.
yeah.
Just did that check clear? You got it.
So the action's impressive in the movie.
Yeah,
it
very
looks,
much so.
It looks really good. He has this fight, and the kid's like, well, crap. And they also do this thing where they didn't have to make the movie overly violent because they have this thing, well, if you die outside of your time period,
That was slick.
you explode. Like they did it in Kingsman when everyone exploded. It was colors and things. So they did that so that now families can watch this movie.
Yeah.
Otherwise, when he's killing people with lightsabers, he'd be chopping their heads off.
Well, there
and-
is like if you were to watch this as a rated R version, they are getting like slaughtered.
Yeah.
But because it's this weird like, I wouldn't even know how it's like,
almost like the Snap.
It is just like the Snap.
But
That's
like
exactly
rainbow
right.
the colors are really cool. It
Yeah.
has this this rainbow, all the colors mixed
and they
together.
just disappear. And it's like poof, and you're like, oh, all right.
Yeah.
And I also think like it's funny that they don't cuss either. Like every time the kid's about to cuss, Ryan Reynolds is like, hey, and then the kid stops, but he gets like one or two in at the very end.
Yeah.
But I thought, I'm like, that's also pretty slick.
But
Like,
yeah,
you
the
can-
movie doesn't ever feel like a quote unquote kids movie as far as like toned down because of that.
Right.
To where Deadpool 2 had a
Deadpool
PG-13
Deadpool,
cut?
yeah, because that's the one with, is it Deadpool reading to Ben Savage? Fred Savage.
Yeah.
Fred Savage.
Fred Savage.
yeah.
In the bed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
So where that you kind of lost a little something there with that cut, which and it's cool that kids were able to watch it or more kids or whatever. But like you kind of lose something in this movie watching it. I never felt like the snark or the stuff they were doing was like, oh, that would have been better as R. Like they still fire off the jokes. They're being sarcastic. So I don't think it worked against
it's
them.
all there.
And all the families can watch it, and it's a great family story like those ones we grew up with.
Yeah. Oh yeah, big time. So this is where Zoe Saldana shows up, who Ryan Reynolds thought was dead. Turns out she
that
was
moment is
stuck in 2018, so she had to
Yeah.
wait. And
Yeah.
I do like that she's like, I went off the grid. I waited for 4 years. I knew you'd get back here eventually.
yeah.
And
She's
then-
been making Home Alone traps at her house.
I did like that. Yeah, where
That's
the
cool.
car and it's good stunt work. Like it all looked practical.
But they got me at every moment.
Practical.
The reunion between Zoe Saldana and
Where I
Ryan
like
Reynolds.
where they're making out and like little Adam's
That's
like,
great.
all right, I'm gonna see you later.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, good idea.
Hilarious. Yeah, because then he
I'm gonna
lifts
take my
her-
eyes and ears for a walk.
Yeah.
That's a good line.
I mean, he like lifts Zoe Saldana up and puts her on the kitchen counter,
Yeah.
like forcefully. I
Yes.
mean,
and
then,
not like
Oh,
in a, but you
no,
know,
no,
like,
but-
I missed my wife for 4 years.
yeah, exactly, in a totally understandable way,
Sure.
right? And then he says, "Oh, I've been shot. My side hurts." And she says, "Man up." That's great. And he goes, "Yes, ma'am."
I'm gonna take my eyes and ears for a walk. That's good. That's a good line.
Yeah.
So then they know what they have to do. Ryan Reynolds has to go back even further to 2018 to stop his dad, played by Mark Ruffalo, from perfecting, I guess, this
Yeah.
wormhole technology
Essentially, not letting it get into the hands of Catherine
Soren.
Keener.
Yeah,
it was
Soren.
not Soren, but it was something like
I
that.
think it is Soren.
No,
No, because that's a Disney thing.
It is a Disney thing. That's true. I gotta tell you.
No,
Yeah, Aaron Sorkin.
Aaron Sorkin.
Yeah. That's the only good ride at Epcot, by the way.
Sorkin.
Sorkin.
Yeah, Sorkin.
The sort where
yeah.
you go fly through all his scripts. So
Throw flying through his scripts.
walk. It's fly and talk.
Yeah.
She sacrifices herself. She knows that the only way to get Ryan Reynolds out
Wait,
of
you
this.
didn't like Test Track?
We couldn't do it.
Okay.
Because
Oh,
it was insanely long. Like the wait for that
It
one
is-
was
it can
was-
be
was-
long.
You have to hit that like right away.
Yeah.
Saurian. It was pretty
Saurian,
close.
all right. But I think they're doing Guardians. I think
Oh, yeah.
Epcot's getting
That opens this
Guardians.
year.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
I still don't get how they got around the rights issue.
Because it's after a certain time. Their version of Guardians was after. It only worked. The Universal only had the rights to Marvel characters that were produced at that time when they made the deal, and so Guardians, that version of Guardians, was made after, so they're able to do any new things.
Oh,
it's just
I
the
didn't know that.
contract language. It's
Okay, I
That
didn't
is
know
some sneaky
So
stuff.
why aren't they retheming Tower of Terror like they did in Disneyland?
I think just because of the love for it, I think that they just.
I got to tell you, that ride was great.
Tower of Terror?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad
I
they're
loved
keeping
it.
one because for the people who love Disney, I mean, I get that maybe kids won't get as much, but I think there's enough love just for if you've never watched an episode, but you go to Disney. I think there's
Yeah.
enough love of like.
I mean, I love Twilight Zone,
Yeah.
but I'm like, you can make
Sure.
it Guardians. I'd
Yo,
be cool
yeah,
with that.
easily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but Guardians replaced Ellen's Energy Adventure, so I think that we're okay.
Well, yeah.
That was a great hour-long footrest, but I mean, there's not. I think they made a good choice with beefing that one up.
That was a brief side story. Bella didn't know what was going to happen on that ride.
Yeah.
So when we get to the top and it opens up and she's sitting right, I was like, "You all right?" And she was like, "Yeah, why?" And then
That's hilarious.
Yeah, she had no clue. She's
What's that big tower? Is that decorative?
yeah, right.
No,
No,
like, I understand the tower part, but where's
Where's the terror?
coming
This
in?
isn't
Yeah,
so
like,
bad.
it's- yeah.
There it is.
yeah. So they have to go back to 2018. I didn't even realize this. It's a 13 going on 30 reunion.
Yes.
which I was
Katie instantly said, "Oh, that's so cute there to get." Like she loved that movie, and so she
that was a
yeah.
big movie, right?
Oh, very.
Huge.
I never
Yeah.
saw it.
I've never seen it.
I've
But,
never seen it
yeah,
either, but
yeah.
it's a big movie.
Right. And so I do like that, Mark Ruffalo is like this charismatic physics professor that everybody, I gotta tell you, nobody wants to go to physics class.
Yeah.
But, these kids were really excited to be there.
But
And
when they're talking about time travel,
That's a little
now
different.
that's got it.
and I do like that as soon as Mark Ruffalo sees Ryan Reynolds, he knows who he is.
Well, this is interesting. He sees him, but he talks to him, and
Yeah.
he's able to pick up on things like, Ryan Reynolds says, basically, Mark Ruffalo says a quote, and it's a quote that's used in this song that we see that he's listening to earlier, and the young Adam says, that's my dad's favorite song and all this, and so there's this, they've been talking about this musical influence, and so when he quotes it in his class and says it's a philosopher or
From
whatever,
Rome or whatever.
then Ryan Reynolds says, no, it was actually this song. And he said, well, you're right. We're both right. It was in the song, but it was originally blah, blah, blah. And then he's like, do I know you? And Ryan Reynolds says, I'm just auditing the class. And then he just picks up on it. He looks at him and he's just like, Adam?
Yeah.
But this moment you got to realize, like, too, is you have a kid that's just lost his dad in the last year and a half.
Yeah.
Then you have Ryan Reynolds that for 25 years has been living with that and the anger and everything that comes with it. And they both, from these two time periods, get to be reunited with him at different stages in their grief. Like, there's something so neat about that, the concept of that.
I do like that Ryan Reynolds wants to knock his dad out.
Well,
Literally,
yeah.
he's angry at him,
Yeah.
right? Like he's angry at not being around when he was a
I
kid.
like when him and the kid talk about it, and he's like, I remember things you don't.
That was a great scene.
Yeah.
That's a great scene. Yeah.
Yeah, this movie is really well written, and there's a lot.
Very much
there's
so.
a lot going on, and they had to get into the headspace of a child and then also an adult who has lived with all that. And it was very believable the different stages they were at. How
Yeah.
like Ryan Reynolds has buried
hardened.
things.
Like I guess he's hardened and he's
Yeah.
angry. Where the kid
Pun
is
intended.
like,
He's buried.
Yeah,
things,
yeah.
You know, I mean, he's kept them in, and he's found his own way to deal with them, but he never really dealt with them. Right? He just pushed them down.
Right.
And so the kid has a fresher perspective on it, so they're able to talk with each other and work through it in different ways that neither of them have thought of, or for a while the older one hasn't thought of these things in
Sure.
the same way. So it's a really neat reunion, but then there's also the heartbreak of they can't tell Mark Ruffalo anything because that's the old time travel.
Didn't
Well,
we
if
see
he
something that? Oh, it's Back to the Future. It is Back to the Future where he's just like, don't tell me, like, don't,
Right.
and then-
that's what I mean. That's every
Yeah.
time travel. That's the
Right.
thing, is that if you do change the past, then they might make different decisions. And so that's what really gets me interested in time travel, is thinking of how that might bridge off into different things. Because, for example, if you know that you're going to be with Zoe Saldana eventually, then when you run into her, you might be like, well, I know this is going to work out. And then you might just assume things.
Sure.
But then she doesn't like that interaction the same way she likes
It's the butterfly effect.
right? And so then
Yeah.
you may actually screw up your own
Which
future.
is the man, have you seen the Butterfly Effect?
I have not.
That's
Holy
great.
cow! Like, talk about it. That's like Back to the Future on acid
That's the Butterfly Effect is like Requiem for a Dream
with time travel
and Back to the Future combined. Seriously, like
that's
that's
a
dark
good way to
movie.
put it. Yeah,
another great.
where
time.
every time he makes, every time he goes back and makes a decision, it makes it worse.
I love
like,
time
every
travel
time,
movies.
and he's just like, oh god,
love it.
that's a good movie. 2 different endings. I recommend both of them because there's one of them that's like, what just happened?
There's a happy end, well, like a somewhat happy ending, and then
happy-ish ending, and
dour
then
ending,
not a
yeah.
happy ending.
So the point is, Mark Ruffalo's like, I can't. You guys got to go back to your own time. I can't know any of this. Don't tell me anything.
Right.
Doc Brown's it. Don't tell me anything.
Right.
I don't want to know. And so the kid wants to desperately say something, and the dad kind of sends him away. And the heartbreaking part of this again is like, this kid, if he does leave this time, we know he won't because of the movie, but it's like that's the last time he'll ever see his dad.
Right.
The dad doesn't know he's sending him away to never see him again. So
Right.
he gets to go home to younger Adam, who's because
Well, that's what he says. Ryan Reynolds tells him, he's like, you never gave, like, your job was everything. This was everything. You neglected me. So when Mark Ruffalo goes home and sees like baby Adam and Jennifer Garner, he like takes off from work and he's being more around when
But it's also selective memory too, because remember the thing about the pitchback, which I thought was really neat. It's because Ryan Reynolds for 25 years, he has this selective memory, or the memories change, where he's like, he got the pitch back so he could work and not play with me, and I had to play catch by myself. But then the younger one reminds Ryan Reynolds that no,
You begged for
you
this.
passed the department store, and
Every
that's
day.
what you wanted, and he got it for you because he loves you and
Right.
wanted you to have that. So but that's so true, right? How we
that
select.
next line where he goes, when did you get so smart? He's like, when did you get so dumb?
Yeah, it's great. I love all the snarky. The
Trying
kid,
to like sneak
yeah.
the beer away from him.
When he's like, do I have to trade the muscles for the brains?
Yeah.
It's a deal.
Those are great stuff.
Very good. So we end up back at what was her name? Sorian's laboratory. Which,
Saurian over Californian.
Yeah.
yes, that's right. And I do like that. It's ridiculous how they have to break in. All of a sudden, Mark Ruffalo shows up, and it's the 3 of them together, and they get in. And this scene's a little wonky.
This one's good too, though. I do like it though that Mark Ruffalo shows up because they explain it, right? Like he shows up to right in the nick of time to hit a bad guy with a car and save Ryan Reynolds, and he's like,
they have a little. He's like, you skinned my ass with that truck.
yeah, that was great, right? All those lines are. I think the banter between the 3 of them is fantastic.
But also that kind of makes sense, right? Like they would all kind of have a similar personality or a similar kind of like, so I do like that.
But it was believable, right?
Yes,
You
yes.
thought they were all related. Like they did play off each other well. But he says, like, why are you here? You're all about the rules and all about this stuff. And again, another one of those heart, ringing lines where he's just like, because you couldn't do it without me. Like,
Right.
He goes against all his instincts, Mark Ruffalo, to not change the past and not interfere, because he sees his son and he knows the only reason his son is there is from the future is because stuff's effed up.
Right. And he
cares about
He
him.
taped the note back together, if you will.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, there's a big like
get
there's,
in.
there's a magnetic field thing. It's I
Was
appreciate
this filmed at a theme park.
It looks-
Doesn't this
it-
look like the queue for a ride?
it really
It looks
does.
like the Hulk ride
It
inside.
looked.
Yeah,
it looks,
yeah,
To
yeah.
me, it looked like the wait where you wait for Avatar.
Oh,
I
sure.
can see that. Have you been at the Hulk in
This is
Universal
a-
though?
No, I won't.
Oh,
do
Well,
things
man.
like that.
The inside of
I
the
can't.
Hulk,
I'm too old
where you've
now.
got this gamma thing inside, is
I got-
like the reactor.
It's hot
It's-
as balls in there.
You gotta
I
get
gotta-
the fast pass
so
things.
another one. Bella, it's the four of us are doing that. We're in it's the last ride of the day. We were it was either the Hulk or Jurassic Park.
For you, who's the other one?
My brother-in-law and his
Okay,
wife.
because I was gonna say
I put Gwen on the
you
ride.
couldn't put Gwen on the Hulk. That thing is.
So it's our last ride of the day. Yeah. We're walking through, and all of a sudden, as we're getting closer and closer, I was like, we're gonna be in the first car. Like we're gonna be in the very front of this, very front of this ride.
Yeah.
And again, Bella, who is 10, I was like, "Are you good?" And she was like, "I think so." And so they clinked down the things, and she's sitting next to me, and they keep pulling on hers. And I was like, "Why do you keep checking hers?" And they were like, "See ya." And all of us like, and man, that thing comes out of that chute at like 80 miles an hour.
That's one of those
Holy cow.
uses electromagnets that push against each other, so you propel super fast. That's a great ride. That's one of
very
the
good
best
ride.
rides at Universal. I know you're not a huge ride person.
I can't do them anymore. Like
Yeah.
the coasters, I used to love them. Like it's it's not a fear thing.
Yeah.
It's I mean, I am a pussy, just to be clear. Like if I was scared of it, I would let you know.
But your body just responds.
I get sick.
Oh,
it makes me
sure.
nauseous to go on them. Like
Dramamine, baby.
I've tried
That's what
it.
we
It
did.
didn't help.
Yeah.
Like I thought that too. I was like, oh, I'll take it like for seasickness, and then that'll help. And no,
It's just your body just isn't meant to go 80 miles an hour from zero. Like it just isn't meant to do it and turn and flips like that.
Right. That's a dope ride though. That's really good.
The Hulk is one of the greats at Universal.
Yeah, I think the harshest thing I can do now is like I can do Everest.
Okay, that's
like,
a fun one.
Yeah, but like when we were there the day they opened Jurassic Park.
That's right.
The coaster, because like Kenan Thompson was in the park and
the new one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I want to go. I still haven't been on.
And I'm just like hard pass. I had watched some test footage of like, and I was just like, no, that is not for me. And I wouldn't have waited in that line anyway.
Yeah.
Like the line was like 4 or 5 hours long.
But you do Hagrid's.
I did Hagrid's.
That's a cool ride.
That's cool.
Yes.
When you're on a motorbike,
yes,
you feel so like loose, like you're just
that was the same
strapped in
deal
at the
where
lab.
Bella begged me. She was like, "Can I please ride the motorcycle?" I'm like, "No, you can sit in the cart."
Because when you're on that motorcycle,
we got
as
up
an
there, I was
adult,
like, "All right, fine."
But as an adult, you feel like you're gonna fly off that thing. It's a lap bar on a motorcycle.
No, I don't think I did do Hagrid's. I did the other two.
Oh, it's so good. It's the new
I think
one.
it was another one. The line was so long. That
Yeah,
we were just
Gringotts and the Express.
we had
Next-
the fast passes, but they don't work on that.
Next time you go, do it and don't look up anything about the ride because it's a coaster unlike any you've ever been on, guaranteed. Like you don't want to know what things it does because it's cool.
It was cool.
So anyway, but they get to the place and there's a showdown. Both of the Keeners are there, and you've got our 3 heroes there, and Keener's trying to stop them. She's like, I can't let you do this. It's time to end this. Blah blah blah. And
Right. She fires this super special bullet, and I do like that Ruffalo pulling kind of a Bruce Banner, where he
is a scientist that created time travel, right? So
right. He should figure this out. This electromagnetic thing is going off and
we've
sucking
seen it
everything
though, right?
to
We've
it.
seen guns fly out of people's hands. We've seen the metal
watches and
the
stuff
bad
like that.
guys are all armored in this metal kind of a thing, and so they're flying into the window.
Right.
There's a really cool scene where Adam, he has these gloves.
That was
so he's
pretty
controlling
impressive.
a drone.
Yeah.
He takes one off, and the electromagnetic propels it towards the bad guy, hits him in the head, knocks him out, and then he uses one to slide down the glass.
That was
I'm
a
like,
cool
that's a
scene.
great action.
That was
sequence.
a good
and the
good
kid,
beat.
it's cool, right?
Yeah.
So we've seen how that works, and that's where Mark Ruffalo's like, well,
Right. He fires the bullet, and of course the bullet, in very very much like bullet time, where it slows down, and then all of a sudden it turns because of the. I don't think the bullet would turn the way that it did. It would just pull.
Yeah.
But fine. I'm just nitpicking.
Maybe with the velocity, if the guns shoot at a very high velocity,
Yeah.
if it can push through, it might actually go one direction. Then
Maybe.
I know maybe not 90 degrees, but you know what I mean. It would fire out and then start.
I guess that's
whatever.
true. And then ends up shooting younger Catherine Keener.
So older Saurian gives them a chance and is like, you can end this now. I'm not afraid to kill. Look, I already killed your wife twice, talking to Ryan Reynolds, which he doesn't know that Zoe Saldana died
I
trying
think that
to.
he does.
No, not trying to. She says, you guys got to get out of here and get to 2018. She stays behind to fight the bad guys. They're long gone.
But don't you think that he knows that she's not going to make it?
No, not a chance.
Okay.
She's like, I can hold them off or whatever. And then Catherine Keener comes in her spaceship and is like, where is he? And she's like, I'm not telling you anything. And
Shoots
she's like,
him with a giant
okay,
Gatling
goodbye.
gun.
Yeah.
It's like, gee,
So
Rambo.
he doesn't know, and that's why they cut to him like that, right? Because she's like, I killed your wife. He knows the first time or whatever, but twice. And so, but anyway, so older Saurian fires the gun at Mark Ruffalo, who's standing in front of them. Young Saurian's off to the side, which you don't really think about, but she's kind of not on board. She thinks this is maybe a little too far, but whatever. She's to the side, and then she kills herself.
But then so that should take out older Catherine Keener.
It
It does, right? Okay,
Yeah.
that's
So
what I thought.
that's the thing with this movie is that they set up these rules, and then they're newer rules than we've seen, but they all play by those rules. Nothing. I didn't see anything stand out. Like, well, you said
no,
that if
they
you
stick to the
do-
rules. Yeah,
Yeah,
but-
no, nothing jumps out to me that.
Yeah,
So
because
it's
even
cool.
when we get to the end, when they're just like, when they say that our timelines are starting to sync up,
Yeah.
and they feel a little weird. They don't describe what it is, but they're like, I feel something.
Yeah.
And I do like that. So the end of this is they're back at this pretty dope house, by the way, that we haven't talked
Yeah.
about.
Like this house
off
out
in the woods. It's pretty
yeah.
cool.
And you see the pitch back, which I thought was really cool.
It's a
that
nice throwback.
It's set up there, yeah.
And
It's
Mark
actually a throw
Ruffalo,
forward
I guess
because
that's true.
this is
Yeah, that's a
current
good
time
point.
for
Yeah,
them.
right. Mark Ruffalo knows that something happens to him. in the next couple years. And he's like, it is what it is. Like, we can't change it. And Ryan Reynolds, I do love this. This is the part that got me as well, where Ryan Reynolds is trying desperately to fight against Mark Ruffalo's feelings, and he's like, Mark Ruffalo doesn't stop. Like, he's like, I love you, I'm proud of you, I love you, I'm proud of you. And finally, Ryan Reynolds breaks down, and the three of them hug, and this pretty like it was a punch in the dick in like a very emotional way.
There's something really special about the way that Mark Ruffalo 2018 only knows really young Adam, and we see young Adam playing games kind of off to the side. We don't really interact him, but like he only knows that Adam, and so when he interacts with older Adam, Ryan Reynolds, though. He calls him buddy, and there's things like that to where it is that gut wrenching thing where like this is his little boy, even though he's grown up, like this is all he knows,
and he's never going to see this version.
Yeah, that's true.
Right, he's never going to see either of these versions of his son.
And this one really got me too because I'm like, well, since they changed the past, he's got to survive, right? Like butterfly effect, something happened, right? He's going to be in the future. And they flash forward to the mom and our Adam.
It's a scene that we had seen earlier, but Adam is very different.
And I thought the dad was going to walk out. You know what I mean? Like, you want it to happen, right? Because you love these characters so much. They've done such a great job getting you to tear up 4 or 5 times throughout the film. And you're like, come on, he's got to survive. But to their credit, I mean, he still dies. They don't change the whole thing that much. But what changes is the experience.
Which I think is also something to point out to the people who complain about it being too sweet.
It's like, yeah, no, they killed him.
If it was going to be too sweet, they would have saved Mark Ruffalo.
That's a great point.
Right.
They to their credit, they don't. But
they kind of do. They kind of get that because of the end with Zoe Saldana. You kind of get that version because she's alive and they get back together, or they get.
But you always knew that was going to happen, though. Like, you never thought for a second when she died in 2012 with Catherine Keener and they're going back to change stuff. Like, if they
2022.
Oh yeah, in 2022 going to 2018, you never for a second thought that they're not going to save her. Like, the whole point is if he succeeds, everything
reverts.
Everyone's saved. Yeah. And that heartbreaking moment when they leave, where he's like, "We're never going to happen. The only reason that we meet and get together is because of the academy, which means that I got kicked out of college and I joined the military and we met each other." And she says, even if we don't get together, something inside will."
We'll figure it
tell
out.
us to, right?
We'll find, it's the No Way Home thing where we'll find
it
our way
is.
back
It's
to each
very,
other.
very similar to that, and a great, well written, well performed. I thought the dramatic stuff between those two, is
they've got
getting
good
emotional.
chemistry.
They do. It was really, really good. So I think that scene at the end is really great with those two because you care about them, right? And it's really well. So anyway, the heartbreaking moment is they disappear. The Adams disappear from that timeline.
The young Adam throws a ball and Mark Ruffalo can't catch it, and he turns around and both Adams are gone.
Yeah.
So we do get a replay of a scene that we had seen earlier, where in the first version the kid's to Jennifer Garner, and she kind of like calls him out. She's like, "You can be such a jerk." In this one, he's got his backpack on, he's ready to go to school, and he remembers that older Ryan. There's like a twinge of a memory of older Adam,
like
saying,
an echo.
Yeah, like an echo. Yeah, that's how he describes it, as an echo.
When they fix the past, it undoes the future. So they don't actually keep their memory. Like in a lot of movies with time travel, that person that experienced it gets to remember what they did. And this version, like we were saying at the beginning, when you go back to your time, your memories all kind of consolidate and you lose things that never happened.
You may have like echoes of things that happened,
but there's something in there, and that's what the heart of the movie is, that like it will you will find these people, and you will.
When he calls that guy like lip mullet.
Oh yeah, we didn't even talk about standing up to the bullies.
So good.
But the bully stuff, the boyfriend that the kid doesn't want his mom dating, all really funny stuff.
But yeah, so then he remembers that Ryan Reynolds had said, "Give your mom like a rib crushing hug."
Yeah,
and he does, and that's she's very touched by that. And then he goes off to school, and that's kind of his life is okay for the most part. Then we flash to Ryan Reynolds sitting in a class.
Yeah. And so he's in college. You're to presume that he never gets kicked out. Like whatever he talked about that got him kicked out in college never happens. He's happily in class.
But then he gets the exact same scene where Zoe Saldana walks in and, she finds out that she's a guest speaker and he's kind of made an ass of himself, but she's in the wrong building, the wrong campus, which is the exact same way they met before. It's just a different setting, and they leave together.
Yeah, it's a really cute.
I thought this was great
with him falling asleep with his eyes open. It's really good. Yeah.
This was fantastic. I'm kind of bummed that this didn't go to theaters because I think this would have been a pretty good hit. I think it would have been a moderate hit considering it would have come out like a week out. So Batman's gonna do what it's gonna do. But yeah, I think this is. I'm glad that everybody gets to see this though, because this is
that's
right in a wheelhouse of an '80s kid throwback.
Yeah,
Totally.
That's the give and take of it, though, right? With streaming, it's like, the stuff doesn't maybe end up on the big screen, but look at how many people get to watch it, and all these families that get to. Whether some people still aren't going to the theaters,
right?
Netflix put the money up. They get it, and that's why it's not in theaters. But they made the movie, and look at this thing that now you can watch on repeat as much as you want.
Yeah.
And, I loved it. I did not expect this.
This was really good.
I saw that trailer and I was like, man, I hope this. I can see it. I could see the potential, and I hope this is good. And it was. I loved it.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's it for this one. Let's go around the table, and everyone can say where to find them.
This is Joe. You can follow me on the Twitter at JoeyButts, BUTTS21.
This is Kevin. Follow me on Twitter at Kevin R. Brackett.
And this is Tom. You can follow me on Twitter at Roger Kubert or on Facebook at Facebook.com/Tom O'Keefe. Find the show online, Facebook.com/Real Spoilers. While you're there, like the page, join the group. And of course, don't forget our Patreon, Patreon.com/Real Spoilers. So, no idea what next week is, but we'll figure something out. So, until then, thanks for tuning in. And Alex saves Rylos.
Get ready for a spoiler. Won't say it twice, 'cause